Good evening, and it's lovely to have seen Ivor again. I met Ivor in Greens Norton Park when he was playing with my grandson Wilco. And Wilco was 7 last week, and he has really matured in this last 6 months. And as a grandparent, I was doing a bit of that fast forwarding. What will he be like as a teenager, as an adult? Which qualities will he take forward with him? And when I was doing that, I was also doing a rewind about myself, because I think I'm very little changed from when I was 9 years old. I'm just fatter and taller and balder, but I'm basically the same person. And I'm going to tell you something that happened when I was 9 years old, because you see, I know what happened to Cod Rod's cap. I was born and brought up in the village of Bricksworth. I lived in the centre of the village, and the primary school was down to the northern end. It was just under the shadow of the All Saints Church, a beautiful Saxon building. And to get there, we had a shortcut. And the shortcut was called Pond Close. But we didn't call it Pond Close. We didn't ever say, shall I meet you at the southern extremities of Pond Close? No, you say, see you at the bottom of Ponky. It was Ponky. And Ponky plays a part in this story because Ponky started within 20 yards of the school gate. And Ponky had high walls on both sides. On the left-hand side, going down the hill, over that wall, there was the old hall of Bricksworth, which has long been demolished, a lake. There were very expensive houses over there. And I'm not sure what sort of people lived there, but they kept them behind a high wall with cement with shards of glass in. So they must have wanted to keep them enclosed. On the right-hand side, the wall was the same height, but as it went down a slope, it became only about waist height. And over on that side of the wall, there was a beautiful bungalow with sweeping lawns, a beautiful garden. But down at the bottom, a stream came bubbling under the pathway. And there, the owners had just let it go wild. It was beautiful with shrubs and bushes and saplings and grasses and reeds. So that was Ponky. And Ponky was a shortcut, but it was also where you had bike races. The older kids used to start at the no cycling sign at the top and finish at the no cycling sign at the bottom. And also, at the weekends, it seemed to have been the venue for a balloon modelling club. Because quite often, when we went to school on a Monday, we would find discarded attempts to have made a dachshund. It really confused us as kids. But that was Ponky. And I said it was Cod Rod's cap, and Cod Rod, of course, wasn't the boy's real name. I'll tell you how he got his nickname. It was at start of the term, new exercise book, get your names on time. And we had a new teacher, and it was that time of nibbed pens, inkwells full of blotting paper. We had kids in our class who could blot with pencil. So when the teacher said, write your name as neatly as possible on the book, that was early in the school year and people had to go. And the teacher drifted round the school and he looked over one boy's shoulder and he said, what does that say? And he said, Gordon. He said, it looks more like Cod Rod to me. So of course we had Cod Rod, Cod Rod. So after that, he was always known as Cod Rod, unless he could hear you. Because Gordon was about 18 months older than me. We were in the same class. He was very tall for his height and I was very short for mine. And he was a poker and a pusher and a puncher, so I kept well out of his way. Cod Rod could hear a sweet paper being unwrapped at 50 yards. He would come over and purloin it. Steer clear of Cod Rod. That was my motto. And one day in summer, I can't remember why, but I wanted to get home quickly. And I went into the cloakroom, I grabbed my coat off a peg, ran down Ponky, and when I got towards the bottom, I changed the coat from one hand to the other, and something fell out. it was a peaked cap. It was concentric circles of green and red. And I turned it over and it was obviously almost brand new. There was no grease inside. There was a lovely white name tag on which was written Gordon Smith. And Gordon Smith equaled Cod Rod. So I just imagine Cod Rod in the cloakroom, foul temper, looking for his new cap. I go back up. Excuse me, Gordon, I just happened to, pow, splat. I thought, I don't like plan A. There must be a plan B. I thought, I'll go past his house on the way home. All I've got to do is fold the cap up, post it through the letterbox. Yeah. Oh no. Every day his mum is either on the garden or looking out of the kitchen window for her beloved son to return. So what would happen? I'd post the cap through the letterbox before school the next morning. Pow! Splat. Must be a plan C. I thought, yes, I'm the only one at this moment who knows I've got the cap. I know what I'll do. I'll just leave it on the wall at the bottom of Ponky and get home. I had a quick look round, no one else about, cap on the wall, ran home as fast as my chubby little legs would carry me. Got in, shut the door, leant against the door, and there was Mum. Now, I was the youngest of 7 and Mum knew kids quite well. And she had this thing, my mum, of this huge hand would come to your forehead to test temperatures, moods, anything else. What's the matter with you? Nothing, Mum. What's the matter with you? You're very warm and red. It's just I've run home from school, Mum. What's happened at school? Nothing, Mum. Nothing bad's happened at school. It happened at Ponky. Are you? And then, of course, you get to meal time. And do you feel hungry if you're anxious? Of course not. So I ate less than usual. In came the swinging hand 3 or 4 times at bedtime. And I had to share a bed with my brother, Paddy, who's 2 years older than me. And you know what it's like when you're anxious. You warm up the bed, legs down the middle, warm that bit up, over to the right-hand side, warm that up, back to the middle, still warm, over to the left. Now that's trouble because that's Paddy's side. Stop fidgeting, boy. And all through the night, I couldn't sleep. I was being wrestled by the blankets in all of Cod Rod's wrestling moves. But eventually I was just so exhausted. Of course, eventually you do have to. David, Paddy, time for school. Now, usually I was the first kid in the playground for football with a tennis ball, but not today. Avoid scene of crime. Go nowhere near Ponky. Avoid Gordon's house. Go nowhere near Woodfield. That means going the long way, Northampton Road. So that's what I did. I dawdled along Northampton Road, past the George, dawdled on, past the Red Lion, dawdled on, past the Coach and Horses, dawdled on. That was the first pub crawl that I'd actually done, but I've done a lot in that village since. Down the slope that we called Doctor's Hill to the school, but no way was I going to go in until I had to. And I waited outside till the bell went. I ran in, I joined the class line. Cod Rod was near the front, I was near the back, and my whole day was spent trying to avoid eye contact. So if Cod Rod looked one way, I made sure I looked the other, or I did my shoelace up, or I was behind someone else. Same in class, get as low as you can on the desk. Don't catch his eye. Stay like that. You can get through this. And it was one of those schools where the classrooms were partitioned off. And you had to move the furniture, open the partition, and then all the infants come up from the infant school and all the other juniors came in, and you sat cross-legged. I made sure I was on the opposite end of the line to Cod Rod. Didn't listen to the assembly, nothing new there. Mime my way through 2 hymns, that was fine. Getting through this, going well. Then at the end of the assembly, Mr. Ward Hopkins, the head teacher, stood up and he took from his pocket an envelope. He took out a letter and he said, I have a letter here from Mrs. Smith, Gordon's mother. I gulped. He said, Gordon recently had a new cat. I went red. He said he has lost it after 2 days. What sort of person in the school would take a school cap like that from our school and I felt by then there was an arrow hanging from the ceiling pointing at my head. It was an arrow from the ceiling pointing at my head, flashing neon letters saying, "It's him, it's him, it's him." And the head teacher said, "If anyone knows anything about it, I'd like to hear it." And I thought, shall I put my hand up and say, "Oh yes, Mr. Ward Hopkins, it was me. I actually accidentally took Gordon's cap and I thought it would be a good idea to leave it on a wall halfway through the village." Now, to me, that didn't sound good in my head, and it wouldn't have sounded good if I spoke it aloud. So I just shrunk even more and said nothing. And luckily, Gordon was due to go to secondary school a few weeks later. And he went and he left. And I sighed a sigh of relief that lasted all the summer holiday. But then almost a year later, something happened that reminded me of this. I was down with some friends at the bottom of Ponky and we were playing games, and one of them was hide and seek. And I thought I'll just slip over the low wall and hide in the bushes and the shrubs near the stream. And I checked, no sign of anyone in the bungalow. So I scrambled over the wall, got over, moved some bushes, and then I stopped. I froze. There, about 2 feet up a tree, about 5 yards in from the wall, was some material, red and green material. I thought, I don't want to play hide and seek. I crept out, climbed the wall, gave myself up to the seeker. I can't understand it because I left it on that wall. It wasn't a windy day. I just think what must have happened after that is one of the next people to come down that lane must have picked the cap up, turned it over as I did, and gone, "Gordon Smith, Cod Rod." And then I think they use it as a frisbee into the plants. I don't know if that's true. I'll never know, but I think there's someone else in this world who one day can say, "I know what happened to Cod Rod's cap."
Very good.